So today's presentation, everyone, is on the CERENERGY battery project of Altech. We do have this aluminum anodes project, which is also very exciting, but we'll talk about CERENERGY today. First of all, I want to talk about the limitations with lithium-ion batteries, and we're seeing these fires because of the liquid electrolyte. We're also seeing that lithium-ion batteries are restricted in their temperature range. They generally operate best between 15 degrees Celsius and 35 degrees Celsius. Outside of that temperature range, the lithium becomes viscous and it loses efficiency and charging capacity. And we know with lithium-ion batteries, just like your mobile phones and other devices, the lithium degrades and the battery runs out quickly. So they have a limited life. Lithium-ion batteries are also at the mercy of the world's raw material supply chains. They use a lot of graphite, with 90% of graphite coming from China, cobalt, manganese, and copper. So is there a battery technology that is completely fire and explosion proof, that has a large temperature range and can operate for more than 15 years, doesn't use lithium, copper, cobalt, graphite, or manganese? Well, this is Altech's battery. It's called the CERENERGY sodium chloride solid state battery, and it uses sodium chloride, which is common table salt, as the main material. And I'll explain how it works later. But the battery was developed by Altech's joint venture partner, which is the world-leading German research and development institute called Fraunhofer. Fraunhofer have done all the R&D work, they've used the salt material, and now the joint venture is commercializing this exciting battery technology. Now, the advantages of this battery are that it doesn't have the viscosity issues of lithium. We can take this battery to minus 40 degrees Celsius to positive 60 degrees Celsius, and it doesn't impact on the operation of the battery. It can be used in any geographical region. We also have a long life because the sodium doesn't degrade like lithium. These batteries go for 15 years and the sodium does not degrade. So let's look at the chemistry here of how this battery works. So you see there the gentleman holding up the ceramic electrolyte. That ceramic electrolyte then has a positive terminal put inside of it, and then the salt, which is the sodium chloride, and nickel powder is put inside that ceramic electrolyte. And then that whole part with the raw materials in it sits inside a stainless steel canister, and the canister acts as the negative part of the terminal. There's a little gap between the ceramic electrolyte and the stainless steel canister. And what happens when we charge the battery is that the sodium leaves the chloride ions, the chloride ions stick to the nickel ions, and the sodium ions migrate through the ceramic electrolyte and form a self-forming sodium anode between the stainless steel canister and the ceramic electrolyte. And it is because of this chemistry that the battery doesn't require the lithium, the copper, the cobalt, the graphite, or the manganese. It uses sodium chloride, the table salt, and nickel powder. So when we charge the battery, the sodium ions migrate through the ceramic electrolyte and effectively turn into molten sodium or metal sodium. That's what charges the battery. And then on discharging, it goes the other way. Now, this is a really cool graphic about what Altech is trying to solve here. And it's predominantly to do with how the world is transitioning to renewable energy. The grids are producing so much renewable energy at the moment that the grids can't handle it, and it's literally being discharged to the ground, wasting money. Germany's wasting 2 billion euros per annum. Renewable energy such as solar is intermittent in its production, right? So it doesn't produce it during the nighttime hours, but the grid requires that at nighttime. And we're going to be seeing EVs coming online more and more, likely charging at the night, putting more pressure on the grid to support the power. The solution to this intermittent energy production and to manage the grid and to stabilize the grid is to put massive sea container size batteries onto the grid to store the surplus of the energy and return it to the grid at nighttime and when the energy is required. That's where the world's heading. As I mentioned before, Altech's joint venture partner Fraunhofer has done all the research and development work. So it's important to note this is not a research and development project. We are now commercializing this technology. You can see there a 5 kilowatt hour working battery module in Fraunhofer's German plant. It's been tested, it's working. They're completely comfortable with the technology, and now we're moving to commercialize it. Fraunhofer is extremely reputable, very credible, being German government institute. Their credibility and reputation are everything. So we can see some of the electrolytes there being sintered at 1600 degrees. There's a final ceramic electrolyte, another 5 kilowatt hour module there. Really exciting technology. That's a small household size battery, but we are targeting the lucrative utility grid market. And how are we doing this? Well, Altech owns 14 hectares of land in the state of Saxony in Germany. This area is being earmarked by Germany as a renewable energy hub. This is what our plant is envisaged to look like. It will be all renewable energy powered. And importantly, the CERENERGY battery is 100% recyclable. It can be done on the premises. It's a full cradle to grave product, and it meets all the ESG credentials. This is really the building block of the CERENERGY battery. It is the 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. We take 18 of those packs and we put them into a standard 20-foot sea container, and then that can be pre-assembled, delivered to the customer's premises, and within 5 minutes of arriving, it's a very simple plug and play design. The customer can have 1 megawatt hour of battery capacity installed onto their grid to store the energy. These battery packs can also be stacked 3 high, which reduces the carbon footprint. Now, in March 2024, so very recently, we released the definitive feasibility for this study with very pleasing economics. It has 109 million euro per annum revenue, a net present value of 169 million euro, and it has a EBITDA of 51 million euros per annum. So this is on the first train of the joint venture, which is a 120 megawatt hour plant to be built. The vision for the joint venture in the company is to go gigawatts, and the profitability will increase with scale of production. But in the first stage, 120 megawatt hour plant, we've demonstrated pleasing economics. So now the joint venture is pushing forward really hard on securing the sales and securing the finance to construct this plant. We can see there some of the alumina being mixed. That is used to create the ceramic electrolytes. We can see it there being sintered at 1600 degrees to get all the moisture out. And we can see there some testing for cracks or faults within the electrolyte. The ceramic electrolyte there is being put into the stainless steel shimmy. That is then placed into the stainless steel canister, and there we have a 250 watt cell, about the same capacity as a standard residential solar panel, 250 watts. We see there some nickel granules and sodium chloride being poured into the electrolyte within the cell being welded closed there. This is all done at Fraunhofer's premises when they've done the R&D, and there's some thermal testing done on the battery at Fraunhofer's premises. They've spent 35 million euros on the pilot plant and 25 million euros developing the product. So, ladies and gentlemen, this grid storage battery industry is a niche market. It's nascent. It's growing at 28% compound annual growth rate. Tesla's made the statement that they will have the greatest part of their battery business will be from grid storage over EVs. It's a very exciting industry. We believe we're in the right time at the right place, and we welcome you all to be part of the grid storage battery future. Thanks very much, David.
Thanks, Martin. Great presentation. Quite a few questions. Some of them are technical, so I will apologise. But we'll start with hopefully an easy one. The CERENERGY battery, unlike lithium-ion batteries, doesn't, as you say, have any lithium, copper, cobalt, graphite, or manganese. What's your opinion on the importance of this?
I think it's very important, David. One is that we don't rely on raw materials and price fluctuations from other countries. For example, copper from Chile, lithium from Australia, graphite from China. China controls the graphite market. They produce 90% of the world's graphite. Now, not relying on any of those raw materials really de-risks this product for countries. And when we're talking about energy security, especially in Germany, where they've been spooked by the Ukrainian invasion by Russia, Russia turning off the gas pipes that lead into Germany. Germany's learnt the lesson, and I think it's an important lesson for the rest of the world as well. It's very risky on putting your energy storage reliance in the hands of raw materials from other countries. So to have sodium chloride as the main ingredient, salt, which is readily available, $30 US a ton, it's in every country's backyard. I think it's very important for energy security.
And what about competitors? Who are your competitors or main competitors in this space?
So the main competitor is Tesla. They have what they call a mega pack, which is a very similar design, the sea container design. They're the leaders in the market at the moment, but of course that product is a lithium battery technology that uses all those raw materials and has the inherent risks that lithium batteries do.
And what about the future plans for CERENERGY battery? What are they, and what should investors be focusing on?
Okay. Well, first of all, David, I'd like to give an example of where the industry is headed. It is the future of the renewable energy transition. A couple of weeks ago, the state of California, which is the world leader in renewable energy production, their grid for the state, for the first time ever, the greatest source of energy came from not the usual sources like nuclear or gas or renewables or fossil fuels. The biggest source of energy was 6 gigawatt hours of power coming from grid storage batteries that supported the grid one evening. And that's an indication of, I think, where the world's headed. Now, where we want to go is, first of all, we need to prove up the product at a commercial quantity in Germany at the 120 megawatt hour capacity. We've selected all of our key suppliers, some of the world's best robotic and engineering companies that come from the automobile industry in Germany. We think we've assembled a team that has the credentials, has the skills, has the knowledge to turn this 120 megawatt hour plant into a success. Now, the strategy is, as soon as we raise the finance to construct the plant for the 120 megawatt hours, we'll turn our attention to gigawatts or 4 gigawatt hour capacity. And then we have the worldwide rights to license, manufacture, and distribute this product all around the world. So we will turn our attention to going gigawatts and gigawatts globally.
There's some really good questions here from very well educated, I assume, shareholders. So they must have your stock on their watch list. How much electricity will one of the massive container sized batteries store? And what are the hours to discharge for how many homes and cars? I'm not sure if that's an answer you've got readily available, but certainly I'll put it to you.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's quite complicated to answer the second part of it because it depends on the homes and the residential uses and what they require. But I can tell you for the first part of the question, this is a 1 megawatt hour capacity battery. So there's 1 megawatt hour of power that can be stored in that battery and then returned to the grid. The C rate for this battery, which really is a statistic that recognizes how quickly the battery can charge and discharge. The C rate is about 0.25, which means that this battery can be fully discharged in 4 hours and fully charged in 4 hours, which is ideal for stabilizing the power supply to the grids.
How much interest have you received for large-scale commercial use of the large storage battery packs? And the question here, could you give examples of potential clients, and when do you think commercial sales may begin?
Yeah, so we're in discussions with German utility providers. We have a list of about 20 utility providers that we think are suitable customers. We're targeting the top two at the moment, which are German utility providers that are transitioning from transitioning from fossil fuel energy to renewable energy. They're using lignite coal, brown coal at the moment to provide their energy. And with the regulations that Europe and Germany has put in place to go all renewables, Germany wants 45% renewable energy by 2030. The onus is on utility providers to make the transition to renewables. So we're confident that one or two of those German utility providers will take the 5-year offtake for the 120 megawatt hour plant. That will assist in the financing, and then we can look at the second train of the joint venture, which is the gigawatts. We're also receiving a lot of interest from the Middle East because of the temperature ability of our battery to operate in temperature ranges to positive 60. So that is another region that we're expressing a lot of interest with. And also the USA has the Inflation Reduction Act that they introduced last year, which is putting a lot of money into renewable energy. And in fact, the biggest amount from the IRA is earmarked for grid storage and batteries. So that is another potential region that we will target. But first of all, we will get the offtake within Germany from a German utility provider and then take it from there.
Last question, $1 million question or multi-million dollar question, depending on how you look at it. Finance, how much is required and how easy do you think it will be to access?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. And that is what we're really focusing on now at the moment. I touched on in the presentation that we're in full drive now to get the finance since we released the financials in March of this year. We're looking at a combination of project equity. We're looking at green bonds for debt in Europe. And we are also looking at grants and subsidies that the European Investment Bank and the German state and federal government is looking to support these sorts of green projects within Europe. So we're looking at a mix. It could come from a combination of all three. It could come from a large chunk of equity in the project, but we're looking at a few different avenues for that. And within the next few weeks, we should make some appointments with, and the ASX will be advised of this, some appointments with some globally leading financiers that will assist us in securing the finance for the project.
Certainly a world interesting project and globally significant on a number of levels. We look forward to following the Altech story and how you look to achieve the outcomes you're poised to follow through on. So Martin, a great presentation. And like I said, a technology that is going to grab global interest, and we look forward to following with interest. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, David. And thanks to all the listeners for tuning in. Really appreciate it.